Early this morning in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin held his marathon year-end news conference. The Russian leader took questions for more than 4 hours, with the war in Ukraine dominating the event. Meanwhile, U.S. negotiators are set to meet with officials from both sides, Ukraine and Russia, in the coming days in Miami. President Trump is looking to end the conflict, he says, by Christmas. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from Moscow. Keir, you were there. You were in the room with President Putin. You were able to ask him a question about the war in Ukraine. Talk about what he had to say.
That's right, Kate. The war in Ukraine dominated this long event. Of course, President Putin calls the war in Ukraine his special military operation. He was asked by the BBC whether he would launch more special military operations in future. He said he wouldn't, as long as Russia was treated with respect. In the past, he has said that Russia would not go to war with Europe, but that it was ready for a war with Europe. And again, Kate, I wanted to ask him, of course, about President Trump's push for peace and how that fitted in the context of those kinds of views shared by President Putin. Take a listen. Mr. President, if you reject President Trump's peace offer, will you be responsible for the deaths of Ukrainians and Russians in 2026?
We do not consider ourselves responsible for the death of people. It wasn't us who started this war. So saying that we reject anything or turn anything down is inappropriate and groundless. So the ball is entirely in the court of our Western so-called opponents. The chiefs of Kiev regime, most importantly, and their European sponsors. We are ready for talks, and we're ready to conclude the conflict by peaceful means.
Of course, Kate, it was President Putin and Russia that launched its invasion of Ukraine back in 2022, its full-scale invasion. His answer there suggesting that President Putin believes that he is compromising now. Of course, Ukraine, has promised enormous compromises to try to get to this peace deal, which still, frankly, looks a long way off.
And Keir, the European Union yesterday failed to reach an agreement on whether to use frozen Russian assets to back a loan to Ukraine. How significant is that?
It's hugely significant. The idea for Europe was that those Russian frozen assets, billions of dollars, tens and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of frozen assets, could be taken and used for Ukraine. Belgium was against it because it was controlling that money and was worried that it would face punishment from Russia, possible legal sanctions and international issues. In the end, Europe couldn't agree and came instead to this kind of fudge, which is a loan for Ukraine of 90 billion euros, over $100 billion. But I think there are going to be questions about where Europe is going to find that money from and how European governments, many with huge debts, are going to persuade their people that they should spend more of that money, albeit in a loan, in supporting Ukraine. It does show how difficult things look for Ukraine in the months and years ahead, Kate.
Keir Simmons for us in Moscow. Keir, thanks so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.